A friend of mine committed suicide a couple weeks ago. She had been friends with me most of our lives. We're both 50 now. And maybe other people who will hear this, not maybe, for sure, you've been through this. Someone close to you, a friend or a family member, commits suicide, and you go through all kinds of emotions, right? Obviously, shock and upset, but it's been now a couple weeks. And the two that I'm most surprised by are guilt and anger. The first one, you think to yourself, if only I'd been a better friend, if I'd been in more touch. And this is by no means the first friend of mine who's committed suicide. I'm 50 years old. It happens in life. But anyway, so you blame yourself. I did this wrong, or I should have done that, or I should have been in touch for her birthday, or whatever. But that's silly of me, because I don't have that kind of power. This person has 3 beautiful children. Her husband's one of the best guys I know. There was a slideshow at the funeral of all the things they've done, all the adventures they've been on. They've been to every continent except for Antarctica. Everyone's smiling, having a great time. So not only is it silly for me to feel guilty, I'm just a friend. I'm not anyone of consequence. But it would be guilty for anyone. Silly for anyone to feel guilty about it. Her family, her friends, because clearly she had a great life, as great a life as anyone could hope for. But she did it anyway. And that's the other emotion I'm surprised at myself. And I can't imagine I'm the only person in her orbit who feels this right now. And that's anger, because her kids, she's got twins who are 12, and she got a daughter who's 15. And I'm thinking to myself, these kids, how are they going to, and they're so sweet, these perfect kids. They look just like their mom. And you should have seen them at the funeral. My gosh. They kept up they did wonderfully. The eldest did a reading, and she arranged the slideshow, and we're shaking hands like little grown-ups in their suits, the boys. But they got to carry this for the rest of their lives. And then I feel guilty and angry again at myself, because how dare I have the nerve to be angry at my friend who was so upset that she killed herself? Who the hell am I to be judging what she did? And I think that's a fair question. But just the suffering she caused, and her parents are still living too, the suffering she caused to all those people. So then I must say to myself, I knew this person, as I say, most of my life, someone very important to me. So I say to myself, okay then, she's smart enough, she's an MBA, she knows stuff. She's smart enough to know, at least to some degree, what the consequences of her actions will be when she takes her own life. How it's going to affect her parents, her husband, her kids, her dog. I'm not joking. She loves dogs like I do. So then I realize that, and this is the thing that seems counterintuitive, but I mean it really. If anyone has an excuse, or not an excuse, but a valid reason for suicide, it would be someone like her. And it's not because she had a horrible life. It's precisely because she had a beautiful, wonderful life. And she did it anyway. That says to me that she had something legitimately, seriously, demonstrably, incurably, a lot of adverbs there, but incurably wrong with her, because it couldn't be cured by anything in this life, at least not from her perspective. I heard someone say once, no one forces someone else to commit suicide. And I've thought about that for 30 years, and I don't know if it's true or not. I do know that what she did is no one else's fault. It can't be. Because her husband couldn't have given her, and her kids couldn't have given her a better life. So there was nothing wrong. There was nothing anybody did, even like an extra on the set like me. Nothing anybody did wrong that caused her to do this. And she had been fighting mental illness her whole life, but low-key functioning mental illness, just depression and all the terms. I don't know them. I don't even know what her particular diagnosis was. I'll say one last thing. This is a little longer than I wanted it to be. No, 2 last things, because the last thing about it is that from a clinical or, just top of my head perspective is, I've never been a fan of this 10 or 20 years where everyone's been obsessing about mental health. And let me be clear, it's not because I don't think mental health is important. I really think it is important. But the problem I have with it, or I guess maybe I should say the question I have with it, is it right to be focusing on yourself all the time? and all your problems all the time. Because I actually do believe that the purpose of life is to be of loving service to other people. So I think if you're focusing on yourself, no matter how much progress you're making, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Because I don't think that's where happiness lies. I don't think that's where fulfillment lies, because I don't think it's what we're made for. I grew up with a lot of addicts and alcoholics, and I always sort of rolled my eyes at the way they would always steer every conversation around to themselves and how well they're doing in their recovery. And sometimes they 12-step everybody in their environment too, because it's the only, the hammer was the only tool they had, right? And that's all. And it was a way to talk about themselves constantly. And I found with this mental health thing, people are talking about themselves all the time. And it's not just that it can get a little tiresome to listen to. I can get tiresome to listen to. It's that, as I say, I don't necessarily think that's good for anybody, no matter how well-intentioned your self-analysis is. And if it is your obsession, well, not obsession, I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but if it's your focus that you have problems in this world, logically taken to its extension, the only way to alleviate those problems is death, suicide. It is like a soft suicidal path on which people travel. This is not a formulated thought, but as I say, I've just never been on board with the mental health thing because I got questions about it. But in the wake of a friend committing suicide, it's not like I don't think it's real. I know it's real, and I know my pal had some serious clinical issues that I can't imagine. But here's the last thing. This is religious. I'm a Christian, but I'm a Protestant, which means basically anything goes. Actually, I was an Anglican confirmed, then I became Presbyterian. Now I'm part of the new church. We practice selective annihilation of mayors and government officials, for example, to create a vacuum. Then we fill that vacuum. As popular war advances, peace is closer. But almost every religion, certainly every Christian religion, and definitely the Catholics, and she was a Roman Catholic, suicide's considered a sin. Of course it's a sin. And the Catholics in the past, maybe pre-Vatican II, would say, oh, you can't go to heaven if you committed suicide. I defer if anybody out there knows the specifics. But if we're all children of God, and I think we are, to the extent I can know God's character by what little piece of him is in me, my friends in heaven are on the way there somehow. And I've read the Bible. I got it right here. I've read the Bible. I've read every word. Maybe I've missed it, but I don't see anything in there that says you can't go to heaven if you committed suicide. Now, I don't think anybody should. I think it is a sin. I think it's breaking a commandment. It's killing. But if heaven is only for perfect people, there's a hell of an echo up there. At the funeral, the priest spoke to this. And I, again, with a monsoon of respect, Catholic services don't really resonate with me as a Protestant, just because there's all kinds of secret handshakes and actions to the songs, and I don't know them. But, so I feel a bit removed. But the homily spoke about this, and he basically said she's in heaven, and that's it, and that's all. Of course, none of us can know that, but I'm not going to believe in a God that would exclude her when she suffered her whole life and did the only thing she thought she could. This is the part in these sorts of things people say, oh, if you get help and this and that. I don't even know what to say. I love my friend, and I'm sorry she's gone. I'm sorry for what minuscule part I did or didn't do. But I know she's in a better place. I know that her kids and her husband will see her again in the blink of an eye. And I guess the best I can do is cling to that right now.